welcome to the March 4th P3 committee at 10 a.m. in the district office in the upper conference room. The meeting will come to order. Do we have any members of the public? Okay, thank you. All right. Let's move on to our items for discussion. Board conference attendance, item number 1.
This item actually was brought up in the board meeting originally by Director Pennick, and then in that discussion, it was basically punted to the P3 committee for discussion. The main discussion at the board meeting, as the board members, as the committee members recall, was revolved around, does it make sense to either provide a limit, whether it's a dollar limit amount or attendance limit, or by geographic region. At the board meeting, there was no consensus. Matter of fact, my personal opinion is Director Pennick actually talked about the numbers seem to kind of back down on limiting it, but it still got punted to the P3 for further discussion.
Okay. So here we are. We can talk about this and figure out if we want to put some restrictions, what kind of restrictions, whether we don't want to put restrictions. Adjacent to this issue is also, what do we do with the information when we go to these conferences or these seminars? How do we report it out in a way that's beneficial so that it is, so that our constituents can feel like they also benefit from us attending these conferences? There are multiple benefits for us attending these conferences personally, professionally, from a learning perspective. And so I'm open to a discussion. My personal opinion is that I'm not in favor of limiting. I think that, if you look at the budget, we've not exceeded the budget. Our travel budget is not our, if we look at the 3 buckets of spend on board members, we've got benefits, travel, and per diem. And travel is not the top one of those. And so I'm not in favor of limiting it unless we start seeing that we go over. What I am in favor of is figuring out a way to report out that might be not onerous, but a little bit more thorough than what we currently do. So those are my thoughts on it.
To provide a little context and just repeat kind of what was said at the board meeting. So about $50,000 is budgeted. We're on track this year to hit 50. During COVID and also during the recession, it got down to that 12,000, but that's because we stopped traveling during kind of those periods of times. Over the last 10 years, it's gotten as high as 62,000, 67,000. That's about it, but typically about 50,000 is budgeted. Typically, we do not spend the whole budget as far as a 10-year average, according to Wes. There are no restrictions currently as far as the number of board members attending any particular meeting. It kind of naturally self-regulates. Certain board members are more interested in certain subjects, whether it's water reuse or CASA or aqua or something different. Aqua conferences seem to be ones that's primarily attended by most board members, but the other conferences are more sporadic. So those are kind of the history. Sitting down with Wes last week that I got from him. So,
and we can also, if it's the case that we look like we're going to hit our budget, at that time we can say we shouldn't travel anymore because this is what we budgeted and we've come up against our budget.
This fiscal year will be closed. So Wes is projecting it will be at 48,000 of the 50,000 by the end of the fiscal year at the current track, knowing what's coming up, working on the remaining conferences coming up. But again, last fiscal year we weren't that close. There's one other thing. Oh, and as regarding the reporting out, so we've had both. We've had verbal report outs and we've had written report outs. Different board members in the past have preferred different methodologies for their own reason. I don't think there's a perfect solution. Some board members do excellent written report outs, some don't. Some board members probably spend more effort on their verbal report outs and provide context and good materials, and while other board members may not. So what works for one may not work for the other, but it is at the end of the day a board decision on the report outs. The written report outs do save time in the board meetings because there are no verbal reports. However, the education then assumes that every board member is reading the written report outs.
Yeah, I was interested, obviously, in Councilor Gilpin's opinion on this, given he represents multiple districts, and it seemed like there was no perfect solution for this. So that being said, I agree with President Boyd Hodgson's opinion that there's lots of value for the district and education that comes out of this, including some of the inspiration for my renewed emphasis on finance and making sure we're getting a return on investment. So I think that alone justifies investment here. It's resulted in a huge net win, I think, for the district in general. So without there being a suggestion for some sort of improvement, I think the status quo is good.
Yeah, the staff has no issue with the status quo as far as budgeting for it, and I don't disagree that if we looking at the third quarter reports, we'll probably be for the appropriate time, maybe halfway year, mid-year report, but third quarter reports on the budget fund to see where we are, and that's really about it. But yeah, as far as then the only question really is reporting structure, whether keeping that the status quo also or changing it.
Before we sort of noodle that,
Mhm.
if we did want to, let's say it looks like we're going to hit our budget in October, what would be the mechanism if we wanted to, as a board, or if someone wanted to bring forward a motion that says, we're going to curtail travel for the rest of the year? Would we have to have an ordinance or a policy, or could we just vote on it?
Yeah, I talked to Jim briefly. You could just vote on it.
Okay.
Matter of fact, to curtail it, you don't have to actually even vote on it. It's just don't sign up. It just is what it comes down to.
Right.
But it's really, the vote comes just like any other project, just like the board approved at the last board meeting. When you approve additional budget on a project, it's the same thing. You're just approving additional budget allocation out of reserves to go into the board spending. And just so to put it, that's all reimbursement. So that's mileage, meals, everything but per diem and benefits, basically. It goes into that. That's the 50,000. So it really isn't much of an action. And even going over by a little bit, a lot of times in the past when I asked Wes, the board never actually took action. We just allocated more budget because it was within the general manager's authority to do so. So there's no even action required. So the only difference here really is just an awareness. So there may be awareness that here we're getting close to the budget. It looks like we're going to go over. It's still within the GM's authority because we're not going to go more than $50,000 over to authorize the transfers into that if board members are signing up for stuff. So maybe all we're doing is from a staff level is letting the board know that, hey, we're getting close to the budget and these are the upcoming conferences. And then at that point, the board members themselves could decide as either individuals or as a group what to do.
Okay. So are we aligned that there won't be any formal parameters around restricting?
I believe that to be the case, yes.
Okay.
Now, what about the report outs? I've already said what my opinion is. I would like more, but I also don't want it. I don't want it to be something that discourages us from attending. But I also feel like, if there was like a template that was just, something that we could, so that we could all benefit from each other's attendance, and I also I like to read things. I feel like I retain it better if I read it rather than hearing it. So I would like to see something like that. I don't know if there's appetite amongst the other board members, but I would like to see some kind of template that is, you could just say, where it was, like your top 3 takeaways or just, something like that might spark discussion.
The template that I've seen in the past, it just says you fill in the date, the conference attended, and then it says session, and then you write a couple sentences about each session that you attended. And those are the templates I've seen personally. And then I've seen just an open format, just it's conference, and then you could write, so in other words, you don't have to write about every session that you attended, just main takeaways, pros, cons, main takeaways, something to that effect. I mean, the staff could definitely come up with a template if that's the direction that the board wants to go, or even at the committee level, we could come up with a template if so be it, and then to be presented to the board. That's if we're going that direction, let me know which way. Either way is fine.
I like the main takeaways rather than breaking it out session by session, because if, sometimes several of us attend the same session.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't attend every session. I like the idea of just takeaways, because different things resonate with different board members. And, having just been traveling for the last week and attending a conference on climate change, there are a few, there were several sessions that were breakouts, that were interactive, but I can easily talk about 3 things that came out of the conference that I want to share with everyone and propose some ideas. So I kind of like it open-ended, but I also, that's what would work for me.
I think that's a good idea. The simple template, meaning suggested guidelines that we could all kind of normalize or structurize this a little bit would be helpful. And then, then that way everyone can rely on that, and it can be a little written readout too.
So would the committee prefer if staff came up with a template and just emailed it to you guys for comments? And then would you want to see it again in committee, or based on consensus through email, take it to the board if that's the direction?
I mean, I know you're busy.
So,
I don't mind coming up with a template, and I can just share it out and you all can comment on it, or you can add to it, or you can flag it if it, if you've tried something like this in the past and it's not gonna work, then I appreciate that
No,
experience as well.
I'm thinking about the old template that we used to have in the past, which it would, this would be simpler, because the old template was location, and it said, it didn't require you to put down every session, but it basically said session.
Mhm.
And then it had, what are the main takeaways from the sessions? What did you like? What did you didn't like? And that's really all it said. So if you wanted to talk about the conference as a whole, and then there's general comments at the bottom. Or you could say, you could have attended 6 sessions, right? But you only decided to talk about 3 of them,
Yeah.
because those are the ones that hit you. So there's no requirement for you to actually, if you entire 6 sessions, write a paragraph for all 6 sessions, because some of them may have been, it was a breakout session we talked about, I got no value out of it. I thought I would. It was a dud, because that happens also. I've been to plenty of conferences. So it's great. You always seem to get 1 or 2 things that kind of like good nuggets of knowledge from those, and that's what you want to talk about. So that's kind of, I'm envisioning taking our old, if I could find it, our old template, doing some modifications, simplifying it, and kind of leaving it that, emailing it to the committee members here, and then getting your comments, and then refining it from there.
I mean, if you have the time, great.
So,
Then that, since it sounds like it's something that's already.
well, I'm hoping to find it. so I haven't found it yet.
Okay, why don't you let me know if you can't find it?
Okay.
Like this week, and then I
Yeah.
can take a crack at just creating something that is exactly what you said.
Okay, so
If it,
so assuming that I did find it, and we put just a little bit of effort to simplify it out, would the direction from the committee be sent to you guys for review and comment, and then bring it to the board at a later date, or you want to come back to another committee and just?
I don't think we need to have it
Okay.
here again. Let's just take it to the board.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so what we'll do is I'm hoping to find it, so I'm making the assumption we find it and just modify it. And then we'll send it out as an email to the committee members here. And if you have any questions, comments, go ahead and send them to Anthony and I. And then we'll make the modifications, send you out a final.
Okay.
And then based on the thumbs up, schedule at the next appropriate board meeting.
Okay, that sounds good. I mean, and I just want to emphasize, let's simplify it.
Yeah.
It should be let's simplify it and give flexibility to the user. But also just to put a little bit of structure around.
Yeah, I'm envisioning we'll start instead of putting the general comments on the main takeaways from the conference at the bottom, putting it up top.
Okay.
And then allowing space on the bottom if you wanted to talk about different sessions. So this way, if somebody wanted to talk about different sessions, they could,
That
or
sounds
if they
great.
just wanted to fill out the general takeaways, they could.
I think that sounds great.
And then would this be in the board meeting minutes?
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah, so it will be when everything goes out, when you get the agenda, you end up, whatever has been turned in by board members would be added to that packet in the agenda. So this way a board member can read it. So you may not get so here, I guess this is a good conversation. You may not get the instantaneous feedback. So for example, President Boyd Hodgins went to 2 conferences, and at this next board meeting, I imagine you're going to report out on both those conferences. But however, since you just got back from those conferences, in this case, you wouldn't get those report outs. It wouldn't be into the next one because you probably, unless you got them in last week, you wouldn't be able to get them in. So there it creates a delay.
Mhm.
It does speed up the board meetings in general, but it does create that delay. So that's the other side of the coin.
Well, she'd still vocally be reporting out and her summary would be in, or it would just be the summary goes in the minute.
Just usually just a summary goes in the minutes. So well, I guess it's up to the board, but what's happened in the past is the board members say, I attended these conferences, my report is forthcoming. It was a great conference. A lot of great things I want to share. My report's forthcoming. I can't wait to share that. And then when it's reported out, it's usually there. And then sometimes if there's something in particular, they would highlight it that, that's above and beyond. So, but typically what ends up happening is the report's in. So you're replacing the verbal report out with a written. That's the intent. So, I mean, again, if that's not the direction the board or committee wants to go, then we just leave it as is.
Did you want to say something?
I just want to clarify too, because we're talking about the template, if this is going to be used for a straight verbal or straight written.
I believe straight written, correct?
My understanding is that this would be what we turn in as a written report,
Mhm.
and then we can report out at the meeting still verbally.
Oh, do both? Okay.
So I mean, typically, if you're doing a written report, you wouldn't double up the work and do both.
You would
To
not
your
report
question,
out
no,
verbally.
no, not when you submit the written report.
Yeah, so it's either written or verbal. And so we can leave it as verbal and then don't worry about the written, or you go written and then basically all the written reports are there for board members to read.
Right, and I just want to ask that question, this is going to be that flexible for board members to use either or. So if someone prefers to do a verbal report, we do have the same template, it's just a structure about that reporting out. And then same if it's written. But typically, if you're submitting a written report on something like that, you're not gonna double up and do a verbal report and submit the written report. It's gonna be typically either or.
Mhm.
And then the written report will become part of the minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, I envisioned speaking about it a little bit as well, not to the extent of the written report. Because not everybody reads the board packet, and the public doesn't read the board packet. So I would like to have that flexibility, and we do, because we have a point in the agenda where there are director's comments.
Yeah, that was added when we took the report on travel and
Mhm.
conferences. That was added when we took the written reports out.
Okay, but we
So-
still have a place at the end if someone really wants to talk
Yes.
about something that they attended. So there's still some flexibility
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, I'm torn on the subject a little bit. I think I agree with the sentiment that the public doesn't generally read the packet, and therefore by using a template and putting it in there, it kind of buries it a bit. But yeah, so to that, I'm concerned that, the initial spirit of revisiting this was trying to make it more awareness to the public and, so.
I can tell you the verbal reports are what, not all, but a lot of boards use when
Right.
talking to my other GMs counterparts. The written reports are used by some, but again, like Anthony was saying, it's not both. And with that, when I first got here, it was verbal reports. It got changed to written reports, and then it got changed back to verbal. For several reasons, both ways. So typically, in the past, I can tell you, with the written reports, a lot of times individual board members would lag on getting the written reports in, or just forget to put the written reports in. So that the verbal reports seem to be more consistent as far as getting a report out. And then obviously individual board members report differently, so whether some give more details or less.
Well, based on that, I would say status quo overall for where we're at,
So no modification.
no modification.
If the committee's in consensus, then really it's just a report out at a board meeting, saying the committee reviewed this item and there's no modification recommended. And if Director Panic wanted to bring it back again, he's welcome to, or he could just say, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I don't think he was that concerned about the report out mechanism. He did say that it would be nice to have something a little bit more thorough, and I do agree with that. I wonder if maybe it is just a question of, when we have our time to report out, maybe there can be an email sent out saying, encouraging board members to cover like their main takeaways, rather than I attended a conference, it was really good.
It's almost
I know that I have said that because I wasn't as prepared. I have said something that was not particularly insightful and informative sometimes when I attend conferences, but I feel like we have a responsibility because we are spending public money to travel. And some of these conferences are really, really interesting, and they would benefit all of us to hear about them. We don't always all go to them. So
I don't think there's any harm in sending out almost a template of what you verbally report on, which is the same template, but no written report, just verbally, when you provide a report, please do this. Please provide your main takeaways,
that seems
pros
like
and
maybe
cons.
that's a good compromise.
And that's really just an email. So.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, but just so I get the order correctly, what I anticipate would happen if, assuming the committee here is in consensus, is at reporting out at the next board meeting, leaving it all the same, however, making a suggestion on what verbally to report out, and that'll be followed by email from, the general manager. And then I'll send out an email, or Anthony and I will send out an email to say, hey, please remember when you report out on committees, these are the, what are your main takeaways, a couple things to add to that.
I think that's great. And again, we don't want it to be onerous, but we also want to make sure that we are we are fulfilling our responsibility.
Yeah, and it's just a reminder, so a board member could still follow that, or just say, yeah, it was a good conference, I have nothing much to report. There's nothing as a GM or Anthony and I can really do about that.
Sure. Yeah.
So my takeaway is status quo. We'll send out an email after the P3 committee is reported out.
I would say add to that, it's a double purpose email. One, it's a reminder that you have an upcoming meeting where you'll need to be covering this. And two, here's the suggested structure for how you could bring it up. I think it's helpful.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I like that. Okay, good. Thank you. And if, a board member wants to follow up with a fellow board member about a conference they attended, they can do that, just the one-to-one rather than.
Yes, absolutely.
So I have a question. Let's say that I share something that was really interesting to several board members and they want to talk with me about that offline. Am I violating the Brown Act if I talk with them about a conference I attended? If I talk to more than one person about specifics about a conference I attended?
And Anthony,
No,
You're not, yeah, it's,
no,
you,
because I'm assuming you meet with those board members individually.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, so if you're talking about the conference, it's just that, not district business or shared district business,
Okay.
and creating a serial meeting.
Okay, gotcha.
You should be.
yeah,
Okay.
the danger becomes if you say, hey, I saw this conference, this is what I wanna do here at Vallecitos, what do you think?
Mhm.
Okay, you wanna do that, then you meet with Director Grosset and say, hey, I did this is amazing, this is what I wanna do here at Vallecitos, what do you think?
Mhm.
And now you're starting to know how people are gonna vote if you wanna do that,
Okay.
that's a violation, but if you just say, this is great, this inspired me, this is something that I learned.
Great, okay, thank you for clarifying. Okay, so we're clear on item number 1, we can move to item number 2. All right, district internship mentoring program update.
Yeah, I'm gonna hand this over to Chris, but before I do, President Boyhagen, as you may recall, one of our one-on-one meetings, I was saying we're kind of getting our arms wrapped around the system. Sorry, the internship program. Also, we need to do a little bit of education amongst our supervisors of what the different type of internship opportunities are, because they only know one model. And so there's different models that may be more beneficial for that department that they haven't experienced yet. So this is part of that effort, and Chris and I have been kind of talking about it. And when I say Chris and I have been talking about it, it's mainly Chris working on it. So,
Yes, okay,
So Logan Crawford is currently here. He's here Mondays and Tuesdays. He's out with construction inspection. He's basically doing a job shadow with 2 of the guys over there. Is it okay if I announce?
Yeah.
So Logan's been selected to fulfill that limited full-time position that we have to go out and do the lead line testing at the various residences. So
oh, okay.
yeah, he was one of, I don't know how many candidates, but he was selected, but he's still going through background check. And then he's got to do the physical, and that hasn't been completed yet. So he's still in internship status. I was nervous that would kind of torpedo his internship, but I sent a note over to Jacob Shiva over at Palomar College, and he didn't seem to, have any heartburn over it. So
Okay.
theoretically, his time even working here could be considered part of the internship. If you think about it,
Right.
it sort of is. So
sure.
yeah, so
And this is the purpose of this.
yeah,
Like,
I was really happy.
It's great.
Yeah,
This is-
I was really
this is
happy.
why we are-
Chris even said, I really want one of our ex-interns or current interns to get this job.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great.
I went on a little campaign. I don't know if that helped or not. Probably did more harm than good. But so that's kind of exciting stuff. I was happy that there's no complication with Palomar College. So
Mhm.
I was
Right.
trying to think of all these solutions to work around that.
Mhm.
But it just doesn't matter. In interviews for the next round of interns, so fall, are scheduled for March 20th. So Jacob's already advertising for that. I also reminded him that our agreement basically expires at the end. We've done this long enough that it's 3 years, and so told him we probably want to start getting paperwork to be up it.
Okay.
I did put our names into that K through 16 collaborative, the Border Region Talent Pipeline. So we're participating in that one. Whether we get a candidate or not, I don't know.
Mhm.
Specifically, engineering is kind of interested in having a intern like over the summer. I think this one's specifically maximum 30 hours a week, or whatever. And engineering really wants an engineering intern. So that's specifically what they're looking for. Chris Tapia and Meters would be interested in having an intern. Just not sure if we'd stick them in a district vehicle or not. That's something for HR to figure out. I don't really have the answer to that.
And we're looking at like at Palomar and CSUSM and like where are we looking for that pool?
So the border pipeline is taking care of that.
Okay.
So they're advertising it on our behalf.
Okay.
I don't know exactly who
They
it
pull
goes
from
through.
Cal State San Marcos, Palomar, UCSD, SDSU, I think.
Yeah.
That's pretty much
Okay,
it.
so it's
Yeah.
like it's a collaboration between.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
Yeah. So, and I think because it's at some of those other places, there may be specifically engineering interns that
Yeah.
would fit in with engineering, so
Good.
fingers crossed on that one.
And basically, this would be a paid internship, or it'd be some combination of pay versus course credit, depending on how it's set
So they
up.
get paid, yeah.
Yeah, so these are paid internships that we're looking at too, so,
Yeah,
and this
good.
is where that group wants to have that person for, 6 months or a year, train them, and also get beneficial work out of them.
Mhm.
So,
Oh, I see, you're talking outside of the EDC.
Yeah.
For-
yeah,
Yeah.
so what we're doing is we're kind of getting our arms wrapped around where do we need the help?
Yeah.
And where can we find an intern to fill that position? Do we have the workload for it? And do we have the groups that could actually not only provide benefit to the intern, but have the capacity for it as workload wise and also the type of work. So right now we've identified two, and we're working within our existing programs out, but they'll still have to go through our human resource process.
Mhm. Okay.
On that same item, there's that mentoring program with San Marcos Unified School District. And so I talked to Christine and I said, I think we could do that. I think we could do that, probably not a huge amount of students. Can you give us 4? Would that be doable? And she seemed to think so, but she still hasn't defined what the program parameters are. I think you would want to restrict it to 18 and older, just for the safety of the district, and that, there's just things that can happen when you have an adult with a child, so I don't think we want to do that. But she hasn't come up with the parameters yet. I just think she's really busy. And, I've suggested some things, but haven't really heard anything back. And the ball's in their court to kind of figure it out. It could be that it may be fall before she gets coordinated what it is she wants to have for mentorships. She may do it regionally, so more than just Vallecitos, and might just like be one of the participants.
Mhm.
I'm not 100% clear, but
Okay.
I think we could do it. I just need to know, I need to be able to tell people, here's what you're signing up for, if you're gonna do that type of thing.
Yeah, and I know that we talked about with the staff, the staff investment of time is, a meeting every few weeks or something like, or every week for, X number of weeks, just to, it's not as hands-on as, having an intern here, but it is an opportunity for a student to just get some exposure to what the day-to-day is
Yeah,
like.
and provide encouragement and so forth,
Yeah.
so. I think we're down for that, but I just need to, what exactly are we gonna do? So,
Okay, so the ball's in their court, so
Yep.
Christine is working through that.
Yeah. I think she's getting pulled in a lot of directions. That's just kind of my take. That there's a lot of things and you gotta focus down.
It's good that there's so much enthusiasm in all of these places that we talk with and on our end too. But when you get down to actually discussing the logistics, that's where.
Yeah, that's where the rubber meets the road. So it's good,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, it feels like our internships are evolving to where it's like becoming a pipeline, that's the original vision for it. So.
Yeah, and that's great.
And we're getting our arms around it, and we'll have a capacity. What I'm hoping is the newer internship programs where we get, an intern that comes in 20 hours a week, 30 hours a week, and works. The other supervisors will see that, and then it'll ignite a light bulb in them saying, "Oh, I could use an intern like that." Because the other type of mentorship programs, really, they're giving up their time working on their facilities. It's still beneficial. They enjoy it. And it's 2 hours here, 2 hours there, so it's not a big deal, but they have trouble envisioning doing that multiple times for multiple different groups, because now that 2 hours here becomes 2 hours this week and 2 hours next week and 2 hours the week after. And some of them have to, if you think about it, the guys that are field workers, they're an hour out, they have to come in for an hour, spend 2 hours, go back out.
Mhm.
So it's really 4 hours, so you're losing half a day of production.
So when you're talking about this sort of helping folks understand what the different types of internships could be, how do you see the internship program with Palomar changing? And what do you think the timeline for that would be?
Well, I think the Palomar program is fine the way it is. What we
Okay.
what we don't want to do is layer multiple Palomar-like programs together, because that becomes a
Okay.
burden. So I think staff is actually perfectly happy with the Palomar program. I've gotten no grumblings, but we talked about additional interns.
Mhm.
That's immediately what they thought the additional internship programs would be, and we
Okay.
got kind of resistance.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
then we realized, actually Chris realized and talked to me about it, that, hey, that's what they know. When you say intern, that's what they envision.
Mhm.
While engineering historically, when I first started here, we had a summer and winter intern that actually came in, worked 20, 30 hours a week, and actually did, first learned the copier, and then learned other things too. And Jason worked at another place where he had intern, plus he worked private where they had interns.
Mhm.
So he understands that concept. So he's like, no, I want this type of intern. So once we start getting one of those in, or maybe a couple of those in, the other supervisors can see there's these other internship opportunities.
Right.
That actually provide, they learn, the intern still learns the business. They're with you the whole time, in which, after a month or so of training, they can start doing stuff.
Mhm.
I joke around about the copier, but this first thing an intern learns is
Right.
how to make copies,
Mhm. Yeah.
and then it grows from there. If they can't master the copier, then it's hard to master anything else. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like that's an ongoing process, and I know we as an organization are committed to it. It has to be mutually beneficial, and I think that's where the evolution is taking us, is trying to figure out how it can be mutually beneficial in all of these departments and communicating that value.
yeah, my hope is in the future we'll have kind of three buckets. We'll have the Palomar internship program, which we limited. We'll have other interns that are paid interns that we actually get benefit from, and they get benefit. And then we may have a small mentoring program also, where students come in, and if they're, whether it's with a adult chaperone because they're under 18 or they're over 18, and they spend time being mentored on a once a week basis or something to that effect with different groups. I could see that kind of the three buckets of how we outreach with our community to kind of get interest from the younger generation in our industry.
Good. Okay. Very good. What else for number 2?
That's it.
That does it.
Okay. Moving on to number 3, climate progress report update.
Okay, so here's your update.
Oh, great. Okay.
And if you have any feedback from the previous one, let me know.
Okay.
What James and I kind of talked about is you've got the solar one that I did last time.
Mhm.
And I had kind of put at the bottom greenhouse gas and then benefit, just kind of as little cells down there.
Mhm.
But I talked to James, and if you flip to the next page, there's a page on Tesla batteries. And so James kind of thought, hey, maybe we have like an inserted text box where we define the customer benefit, and then another text box that defines the greenhouse gas reduction, and kind of explain those things. We'll probably add in some images as well, but it's hard to mess with images when you're early in the
Sure.
document. It's easier to just put them in at the end when you kind of done with it. So if you like the style with the text boxes on the next page more than just at the bottom in a cell, let me know. You let me know too, because I actually report to you.
I mean, I do like the color, and I do like the call out boxes. I think call out boxes are really key to having something red. So I think I do like the call out boxes.
I can do both of them green because the customer benefit sometimes is financial and that's money. But I also was trying to do, okay, let me make a green text box for greenhouse gas. And so I don't know if you have thoughts, tell me,
Yeah, so the final product, envisioning it, you'd have some pictures of the site,
Mhm.
like a 1 paragraph verbiage, and
am I writing too much?
a 1 paragraph, and then 2 text boxes. One, it will be the environmental benefits, and the other one will be the direct customer benefits, and with just bullet points, boom, 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 and then a thick line. And we could get on smaller projects, we get 2 per page.
Mhm.
And really, the way I envision it, it's a fact sheet. Anybody could scroll through this. we'll have the upfront, the executive summary, acknowledgements, all that stuff. But when they want to get into the project, what have we done? What are we doing? What is Vallecitos doing in the community to help not only our customers, but the environment? This is it. So you'll see pictures, a brief description paragraph, and text box, greenhouse gases could be amount of CO2 reduction, amount of offsets, whatever it may be. And then of course, customer benefits would be, lower price, offsetting expenses, whatever, and, actually put factual information down. The bigger projects might take a full page, but the smaller projects may take a half page. And then we'll populate this completely with all of our projects, and of course, anything new that comes on, we'll add it. And then of course, make any updates up front to the executive summary.
Yeah, so it can be kind of a living document that we update from time.
And then we can not only put it on our website, but once it's to the point where it's ready to be released, we can do kind of like a press release on it, and then put it on our website.
Yeah, I think this is a great start. I think making it visually appealing is important because we want people to read it. They're not going to read it if it is just page after page full of text and full of text. So I do think making sure that we are messaging what the customer benefit to this is important. And I would also like to see it tied to, a lot of the things that we have been doing, they're driven by regulation that we're going to have to abide by. And so I think that that's important also to include any kind of regulation that's driving any of these changes. But recognizing that that's not the only reason why we're doing this. We have greenhouse gas reduction emission reduction initiatives based on the desire to reduce our greenhouse gases, not solely driven by regulation and legislation. So I think it's important to tie that into where it's applicable.
Yeah, absolutely. And those text boxes, one of the first bullets can be is this meets this regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but a lot of the things you're gonna find, not all of them, we did it based for financial reasons, but it also has an improvement to the environment. So it's a good message that we're, for anybody who just cares about the bottom line, if you just show them a solar panel array project, they might think, oh, how much of my money did you spend on this project? Well, we want to make sure that they understand that this project is saving them money and also helping the environment. So
As long as you argue with SDG.
Yeah, it took us a year, but yes, we get there, but yes, we're there now. So, but so really it's, I want it to be quick hitting. So some pictures, they'll read the bullets, whether it's a green box and a blue box, they'll read the bullets. And then if they want, they'll actually read the paragraph of description. So.
Yeah, and I think the more pictures, the better.
Yeah.
It shows people what we do. I bet many of the folks that get water from Vallecitos don't know about these.
Truly.
So it's just, I think it's just really important to make sure that we are trying to communicate to folks where they are.
Yeah, so the solar one, I'd imagine it's a bigger project. So we'd have a couple pictures, probably take a majority, about half the page or more in pictures. Put the text box kind of underneath the picture, put the other two bullet boxes on the side and kind of have pictures going down or pictures in between and then be done. But then for the battery ones, we'd have smaller pictures of the different sites because they're static, battery packs, right? And then say these are located at 7 facilities. These provide emergency backup during power outages. These facilities provide you with water during fire and emergency and the Tesla batteries, along with our other those are the type of benefits that they'll provide. And then the employee benefits, it was 100% installed, engineered, installed, and maintained through grant funding for the next 10 years. Zero cost to customers for their safety and reliability. Yeah, it's going to be pretty short, but you're getting all this benefit from zero cost. Doesn't reduce any cost, but definitely doesn't cost the customers anything. So it's for the Tesla stuff. So those are the type of things I envision, that type of messaging to go out. So
I think it's important. Thank you for putting effort into this.
Sure.
Anything else for number 3?
Now we'll go ahead and keep on working on that and,
Okay.
and provide a smaller type of a little less writing.
Okay, all
More
right.
pictures, less
All right.
writing.
I was having a tough time with the batteries because there's a lot to say. There really is.
Yeah.
But maybe I just turn them into bullets or something like that.
Yeah, actually, what you put in writing, most of it could be just bullets on
Yeah,
the side.
yeah.
And I was just at the Climate Action Leadership Institute. There was an interesting exercise that we did, and I will forward it to all of you about sort of a guided process to go through when you take your baseline, and that might be helpful, because I know that we are at in sort of the early stages of the consolidation of the information. We are not at the early stages of the implementation.
Mhm.
And I want to make that distinction because I think that that's something I've been saying for a while now. We do a lot of things at the district that reduce greenhouse gases. What we're trying to do is bring it all together to showcase it and make sure that it is that we're grabbing every opportunity to make it known that we are doing these things to comply with regulations, but also to reduce our greenhouse gases. So I will forward that out to everyone. I didn't bring it with me today, but I'll forward it out, and perhaps we can use that as an exercise, either going forward together or just as you're working through what's going to go into the climate action progress report. Okay, permanent special agricultural water rate program update.
Yeah, so this is just kind of a wrap up. So we did the site visits with the water authority, visited those 3. The water authority should be putting together some sort of a report. I'll ask for a copy of that once they complete it, just to share. It was really good. I think they got to see some very different things. A lot of times what we show them is an avocado grove, and this was mushrooms and lemons and mostly succulents. So a little different. Asked all the customers for their updated forms. Most of them complied. Asked all the customers to make sure they were on one of those 4 lists that I talked about earlier. Some of them dropped out. They felt it was onerous, and so I slid them over to Vallecitos's ag rate at their own request, so that's fine. There's probably about 6 that are still working on it. I asked the water authority, can I let them continue to work on this? They said, sure. So there's 6 that are still pending, and then there's 9 that just kind of never really responded. I don't really know what to say. You call, you email, you send snail mail, and just nothing. And so those ones also, basically were removed from the program. But what I did was send them a letter and said, you're getting removed from the program. I sort of thought that might get their attention. And so I did not have Alicia take them out of the program just yet. So when the end of the month rolls around in March, if they still haven't done anything, they'll move over to the Vallecitos' ag rate. So,
Okay.
What's the difference?
it's money. Yeah,
That's money. Ours is more expensive.
Ours is more expensive. Almost $1 more per HCF. So you get enough of those HCFs, and that dollar starts to add up.
$40.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's ag.
It's ag, so they're using a lot.
They use hundreds and hundreds of units a month, not tens. So
400.
yeah, could be 200 to
Yeah,
400.
yeah.
Or more like probably 100 to 200. These are small ag, most of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
probably $100 to $200, probably more $200.
So the next step for these folks is, we've done our outreach, we've tried. They will be moved on to the Vallecitos ag rate, which will hit them financially a
Right.
little bit.
Yeah.
So what happens if that's when they re-engage with us? What happens then?
I could probably put them back in the program again. It's
They'll have
As long as they
have
check
to
off the
comply,
boxes.
yeah,
They
yeah.
can check the boxes.
they probably get a bill at the other rate, but
Yeah, they could
You know.
comply. They could comply and go back on, and
Yeah.
they'll probably get a couple months bills at the other rate by the time the water authority.
yeah.
So,
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. Well, we'll be on the lookout for those phone calls, I guess, if they.
Yeah,
if
there's
they-
only
if-
9
If they
and,
decide to re-engage with us.
It'll be all Director Penny.
Probably. Yeah.
We'll let them know.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe give them a heads up. Okay, all right, anything else on that item?
No.
All right, new district Instagram account discussion.
So this is, how did this come up? So Lisa met with Palomar's social media person. And Palomar's social media person over the years, it's changed positions. And I think the person was rather, just not interested in really interacting with us. But there's a new person there, and Lisa met with them, and they went and had coffee together and talked a lot. And so we're going to do a little cross pollination back and forth.
Okay.
So that's a good thing. This is again trying to get people. This is again what I call future workforce development stuff.
Yeah.
And she had mentioned that the young people really don't use Facebook. They don't
Right.
use Twitter, that they use Instagram.
Mhm.
And so talked with Lisa about it, and I think we'll go ahead and do Instagram.
Okay.
The interesting thing about it is, there's some other social media platforms. I think we'll start reporting on LinkedIn because we actually have a presence there as well.
Mhm.
We've avoided for forever Nextdoor. It really doesn't really want businesses in there. It's supposed to be more of a neighborhood kind of thing. But
Mhm.
I remember, and I haven't looked at Nextdoor in a long time, but when I first was looking at it, it was like cat missing and then coyote spotted. And that's about what it went back and forth at. And you thought, you think that one has anything to do with the other? Maybe so. But so we've just avoided that one. But this is kind of new for us to implement
Okay,
an Instagram account, but also kind of under the purview of having that one focus more on future workforce development than we have a main break or something like that. So kind of some different type of content. And similarly, along those same lines, Delago Academy over in Escondido Unified School District is reaching out. They have something very similar to the program at Cal State San Marcos with the senior program, where they have a group of students like look at some sort of problem on your behalf. And I thought, well, maybe we throw these students the task of developing our future student outreach social media campaign, because they would know what would drive students. So it's something that came through last week. I was just kind of looking at it, thinking, okay, maybe that's how we handle that. It's, let students come up with some designs on that.
I think it's a great too. Yeah, I think it's really important that we be mindful of the audience that we're trying to attract. And you're right about all of that. I think Instagram and even other platforms are a good way to reach young people and communicate the messages that we want to communicate about how these jobs are good jobs and they pay well, and we have opportunities for them for scholarships and internships and mentorships and things like that.
All the ships.
All the ships.
Water jobs are bussing, no cap, for real, for real.
But I love it.
I don't even know what you just said.
I know everything you just said.
I have three kids,
It's getting, it's talking about Edith Ann, everybody's looking at me.
Okay, well, good. So with Delago Academy, are we gonna go visit them to talk with them or?
I just saw it last week and I thought, and the guy was saying, is there a problem that you have? And I was like, I don't want to talk to him about the fleet electrification again. I got to think of something different. And I was just trying to think of things that, okay, these, and they're maybe younger, they may be more 10th grade rather than 12th grade. So, what sort of topics? And as I was talking to him on the phone, it kind of evolved that, hey, maybe they could do this one for us. Create a social media campaign for us to recruit people your age into the water industry on Instagram. So I think that's what we're gonna do. And there's a whole process to their activity, just like the other one. But it seemed like, and to a certain extent, trying to get a younger group,
Mhm.
younger high school students rather than seniors or whatever, so.
Yeah, so what we realize is there's a lot of entry into the public service and the water wastewater. It becomes at cities, coastal cities, because people know cities have jobs,
Mhm.
but they don't know the water district exists, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay, and then once a lot of our employees come from those cities, because now they've been working in the industry, they know the lay of the land, they go, oh, I want to work at this special district, Vallecitos or some other special district. So we end up getting a lot of employees that had their first entry into public service, typically out of city.
Mhm.
When we go out for entry level jobs, we have a tough time finding entry level jobs because they're not looking at us at all. But when we go for secondary jobs, higher level of entry, then we get pretty good applicants. I mean, there's still areas right now that there's just shortages throughout the industry, but other areas, that's where we get good applicants. But it's usually not at the entry level job. It's usually at the next level up. So
Okay, well, good. Maybe this can help us figure that out and recruit some of those entry level folks. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Okay, seed library.
So, Lisa wanted to make sure you knew that she didn't actually paint the birds on the,
I thought you did.
no, she cut out the shapes and
Okay, but still
Put
her
them on it.
artwork. Okay.
she just wanted to make sure that she was
Okay.
being honest about
I
what it
gotcha.
was,
Okay,
okay? So, but we're gonna job block this week with Steve and figure out where we're gonna put it. I'm thinking, maybe more towards the,
the gate.
yeah, the entry gate, so people don't have to come too far. But, there's other things underground that we don't wanna mess with, electrical and some water lines too, and we don't wanna hit anything, but, we will have to mount it, and I gotta have Steve help me with that, so.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. And then this is again Lisa's idea as a giveaway for the event that we would have.
Yeah.
And we would probably, she asked if I could, figure out when would be a good time to do that. The installation really isn't that complicated. It's putting a little concrete and some posts.
And when
But-
is this to be given out?
That's what we're
That's what I'm
figure
trying to
out.
ask right now, so
We're gonna have like
probably,
an event around the
Yeah.
unveiling of the seed
Yeah.
library.
and so maybe,
Maybe some coloring books for kids.
I think it'll probably more middle of the day, and I'm not sure how many kids we get,
Mhm.
but I mean, we could certainly do that. I wasn't planning on doing it on a weekend,
Mhm.
but Thursdays always seem to work well
Okay.
for us because we're fully staffed. Friday, every other Friday, half your staff is off. Mondays are tricky because people take that off, and it's nice to have the full week to
Mhm.
plan for whatever the event is.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
a Thursday, but I mean, you guys can,
We also want to push back to so this way we don't get rained out.
Right.
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
in
We
fact,
want
I
to give
think-
we want to invite local gardening clubs, those kinds of folks,
Yeah.
and we want to make sure that we give them some notice.
Well, and I think she's already got some already lining up.
Great.
So
Okay.
we just kind of need to figure out a when.
Okay. Well, did you want to do it in April? You want to do it in May? What?
Tell me. The further we get away from the rain, and I think the 30th is the day for the fire thing. Did you guys already hear about that?
April
Right.
30th is for the helipod.
Helipod.
Mhm.
I keep on saying heliopod, but helipod.
So I don't know that I want to do it the same week as we're worrying about that.
Sure. You want to push it into May?
Maybe, and
It'd be the first or second week in May.
yeah,
You gotta get
like
away from
May 9th, maybe.
spring breaks early April, right? First week in April, so yeah. So, maybe
Maybe
fine.
May 9th.
Weather's getting warmer.
April showers, bring May flowers.
Okay, maybe the 9th or the 16th.
But we'll take a look at it if those dates work, and we'll send an email out to all the board members.
Okay.
On that. So just work with Anthony and we'll
Okay.
get something out.
And we do have a little library for gardening books, right?
We do, yes.
Okay, because I have some to donate, but I.
Yeah, it's just, so when you're ready to walk in the building, it's to your left.
That's right, okay.
I actually saw somebody in there last week or a couple weeks ago, like getting a book,
Good,
and it wasn't an employee.
Right?
So,
yeah, well, she has multiple copies of some of them,
Yeah.
so every time certain ones go out, she can stick it in.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for working on that. I think that that's going to be a good event and, have a nice community feel.
Yeah.
Okay, scholarship distribution discussion.
So just real quick, I know we talked about scholarships and, maybe the answer to our problem is we send the check to the school, if that's what the committee and the board wants to do. I sort of think there was, some thoughts about that. And just wanted to throw that one out there.
yeah, a little background. So it was approved to go to 2,000, but the request from the board was, hey, let's talk about how we distribute it. Because before just giving it to the student, seeing based on the feedback, the honest feedback wasn't the best feedback that we'd want to hear. We did have one student that used it directly for schooling. Point is, though, it's money in their account. They would have used some other money for some, where it goes, but it's still the general discussion from the board level is to bring it back to the committee and talk about distribution of the funds. So, and other scholarships that do distribute directly to the educational entity.
Yeah.
So that'd be the simplest way.
And how does that work? We cut a check to the university or the
Yeah,
college.
And we need the student's ID number and name.
Yep.
And then they need to be enrolled there.
Mhm.
And then that if it
How
happens
is
to
it-
2,000.
Yeah, but how is it managed? So let's say we have a student that's going to Palomar. $2,000 buys a lot of Palomar education. So how is it managed? Like, how does the university distribute it to the student, or do they put it in some kind of trust? Or I want to make sure the student gets all the money.
Yeah,
That's a good question. I know, I don't know about Palomar, but I know at other agencies still, you have an account. And
Yeah.
if you have a credit in that account, whatever you use, it just comes off that credit.
Mhm.
But I don't know if Palomar does
Yeah.
that.
I can talk to them and say, okay,
I mean, all schools have like a finance
department, yeah,
the student goes to for, whether they need loans or make payments and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we just have that $2,000 credit on their account.
yeah.
Either classes, books, and usually food too.
I don't
And
want
house
our
funds.
money to go towards the administration of the funds.
No, I
I want
understand
them
that.
to,
You
I
don't
want
want
it to
them
go
to
to
be
the
they
student.
don't want a siphoning fee that comes
That's
off
right.
that.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we can find out, because at all the regular universities, the 2,000 will be used up, right?
Sure.
Really, it's Palomar's the only question. So we could find out from Palomar there, and then depending on what we find out from Palomar, if they do have it's just a credit, there's no administration cost, and it could be done that way. If they say, no, we don't allow a credit, or we just refund it back to the student, then we could bring it back.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I think let's look into that because we have always every time we've offered a scholarship, one or two Palomar students have gotten scholarship money from us. So I think it's worth finding that out. And I'm not as bothered. I'm not really bothered by students using it to pay for what they perceive as needed because it's all the same money. It's all their money.
I sort of thought she could have worded it better, but I just was like, I'm not gonna change what she said.
Sure.
She said what she said, I'm just gonna share it.
Because they are, 1 week they may need it for food, the next week they may need it for, an unexpected copier expense that they
Right.
have to pay. So but I do want the money to go to the students.
Yep.
I don't want part of it to be siphoned off for administration fee if we give it to the university and they say, okay, well, great, well, we're keeping 10%.
yeah,
Because we've got to manage it now. We've got to cut the check or
Sure.
we've got to maintain the account or something. So I just want to be careful and mindful of that.
my hope is they just have an account, and then it goes into the account that's under a student, and they'll say, you have a credit of $1,500, and the next semester when the student takes whatever classes or buys books, they can take it out of their account. That's my hope, but we'll we'll verify that. And I'm not, like I said, if they go to some university, I'm not really concerned because any type of classes stuff is gonna use up that $2,000.
I totally get what you're saying, and that is 100% correct, that they have all these different expenses, and it should be on them to justify what they're using it for.
Mhm.
By giving it to the school, though, it eliminates the chance of ill use of it, in that, you know, instead of going to whatever, Applebee's, they went to Ruth Chris or something, you know, like, or using it for gambling as an
Mhm.
example. It's just the temptation is there when you have $2,000 in your bank account and your friends are all going to Verona Casino this
Mhm.
weekend. Why can't I just take out $100? It's my money.
Mhm.
So it's beneficial, I think, to the district to say, we just gave this money to schools, the schools
Mhm.
distribute it. Palmer could certainly be an exception if there's, you know.
Yeah, we'll have to
administrative-
figure it out with Palmer.
Yeah, thank you for checking into that. Those are my only concerns, and I hear, the gambling piece, I didn't even think of it, but of course you did. So I appreciate that you brought that up. Yeah.
Plus it'll provide cover for the board if somebody, if it gets out that, you know, even though the Vallecitos did nothing on bad will, we gave the student money for schooling, if they use it for something like that, it'll come back to us one way.
Sure. And we don't wanna facilitate or enable that kind of behavior that could have lifelong consequences. So,
There's also, it just reminded me of something, because I was looking at this for another organization, but a company called Owl Scholarships that like lists all of the scholarships that are available, that I guess all of the big ones are on, and like students mass apply to them by kind of like just checking boxes. So something maybe we could use in the future. I guess there's a free listing version of it, and then of course there's always a premium listing that gets you to the top of those lists or whatever. But if we want to widen our pool of applicants, it could be an option for the future. Owl Scholarships. Owl, like the.
I'm writing that down so I can look into it for
Yes.
myself,
Yeah,
for my son.
Yeah, because there's like there is a whole industry of scam scholarships out there.
Right.
That parents are applying for and going through the process, and then at the last, like second to last, hit the button, you realize this is not a scholarship. They're trying to sell me something.
Yeah, this was for KPPS, so on their advisory board, and they are looking for different areas to list their scholarships and stuff. So
Gotcha.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it for the agenda stuff.
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.
Okay.
thank you.